This morning, after a lightning-fast 6-week campaign, voting is underway across Britain. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, whose Conservative Party has been in power for 14 years, asking voters for another chance.
Your vote will make a difference. Lots of people want to say this is a foregone conclusion. Analysis shows that's not true.
But with prices high, economic growth low, and
14 years of austerity with the Tories, it's so Jover. It's not even just Rishi Sunak. Nobody could salvage the situation. I mean, listen, the English, they have a tendency to be like, oh, we hate that the NHS is underfunded, so this time we're gonna vote for the Tories again. They do have that tendency, because I remember last time around they were like 9 years of austerity must be put an end to, which is why I'm voting for the Tories once again. It's like, what do you mean? Like, what needs to be done for you to understand that like these guys the country up? It's very weird, but this time it does feel like it's actually Jover. It's really awful though, because it's Jover for the Tories at a time when like Labour is basically repositioning to be the Tory party, the competent neoliberals, which is very sad state of affairs.
Conservative prime ministers in a row forced to resign since the 2016 Brexit referendum that saw the UK crash out of the European Union. Many voters here are in an unforgiving mood.
They want to see the Conservatives maybe get what they deserve after behaving so badly.
Polls suggest the Conservatives are facing a wipeout. And the centre-left Labour Party heading for a potentially historic landslide victory. Labour's Keir Starmer poised to become Britain's next...
The only way that the Labour loses this is if Keir Starmer and the current Labour, which is literally so goddamn Tory adjacent, so goddamn conservative. The only way that the Labour would ever lose this, instead of the insane landslide victory that they're supposed to get in this circumstance, like their opposition, once again, has recycled leadership unceremoniously in a way that I have never seen in modern politics. It is a joke. 14 years of austerity. People are annoyed with both the cost of everything going up and also with the amenities that they normally took for granted getting worse and worse year over year due to privatization. The river is full of shit. The water is bad. Everything's expensive. I mean, it can't go on like this, right? So the only way that this still loses, this absolute like silver platter dub that they're giving to the Labour Party, is because he is so unimaginably dog shit, so uncharismatic, such a massive up, and Labour hemorrhages its like loyalists, which it has already, and people, I don't know, maybe like vote for the Greens or something. I don't know, or they just don't. It's just Starmer is so bad. It would be entirely Starmer's defeat if that was to even happen, which I don't think it will. But I mean, people are saying there's no chance of Labour losing. I don't think so either. But regardless, dude,
Minister and the leader of America's closest ally.
We've now had 14 years of chaos, of division and failure, and the choice tomorrow is to bring that to an end, to turn the page and start to rebuild with Labour.
A former prosecutor, Starmer is a political centrist whose policies and politics align with President Biden's. But next year, he may be dealing with a second-term Donald Trump, who's threatened to pull the U.S. out of NATO and cut support for Ukraine. Does Keir Starmer have what it takes to stand up to Donald Trump on the world stage?
I think Keir Starmer will stand up for what he believes in. When it comes to foreign policy, our support for NATO is the cornerstone of that.
We headed to the West London constituency of Kensington and Bayswater, home to one of the country's closest races. The Conservatives won the last election here by just 150 votes. Now, Labour candidate Joe Powell is hoping to flip the seat.
We think this is going to be very close. Whatever the national polls show, this is not a traditional Labour seat.
Do you think people are excited about voting for Labour, or they just want to punish the Conservatives at this point?
Well, I think a lot of people are very excited about voting for Labour because they're desperate for change in the country.
Some of those...
You literally just described, people aren't excited to vote for Labour, the current Labour. You literally openly admitted that they're voting against the Tories. They're excited to punish the Tories. Okay, so they're not excited to vote for Labour. They're excited to punish the Tories. Old Labour, yes. This right-sided Labour. I mean, this is also in some ways old Labour as well, when you think about it. Dick riding NATO and America into oblivion and being otherwise dog conservative is old Labor. There was only a brief period of Labor that wasn't like that. Contemporary Labor Party has been more like Keir Starmer, the kid starver, and less like Corbyn.
Those looking for change are turning to the populist right and the anti-immigration Reform Party led by a British ally of Donald Trump. Polls suggest Reform winning nearly a fifth of the vote, though the UK's election system means it's unlikely to win many seats in Parliament.
Now, unlike the US, here in the UK, there's no transition period between an election and a new government taking office. So, assuming the Labour Party wins tonight, Keir Starmer will give his victory speech. He'll sleep for a couple of hours. He will head to Buckingham Palace just down the road to see the King, and then he will immediately take office as the new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Stephen?
Wow, a lot to be watching for that. Raph, thank you.
It's so funny seeing like UK politics resemble American politics so closely. Not gonna lie, guys, things are not looking good.
Where today's election is expected to bring a dramatic shift in power. Polls show voters are likely to throw out Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and the Conservative Party that has led Britain since 2010.
When Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced the election,
over the next few weeks, I will fight for
the wettest way to announce an election. Just, music blaring in the background, just wet as a perfect representation of his administration.
every vote. I will earn your trust.
it was the soggiest of starts,
So that's interesting.
which led to a clumsy campaign. From criticisms for ditching the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings early to record a TV interview, to being skewered for saying he could relate to struggling families because he didn't have cable TV as a child.
That was something that we never had growing up, actually.
Sunak and his wife, it should be said, are wealthier than the king himself. As voters go to the polls, support for his leadership has sunk to the lowest.
Yeah, bro's got the wifey poo on lock, okay? I mean, his pop was wealthy too, but like his wife is really wealthy. Money mogging the royals.
Lowest of lows, says political journalist and co-host of the News Agents podcast, John Sopel.
And this is going to be the most brutal massacre that the Conservative Party has seen in its near 200-year history.
Over the past 14 years, there have been 5 successive Conservative prime ministers. First, David Cameron, who resigned when the Brexit referendum he called didn't go the way he wanted it to. Next up, Theresa May, who quit because she couldn't secure a divorce deal from Europe. Then Boris Johnson, whose chaotic premiership ended in...
My controversial take is that the Tories were too cowardly and forced Boris to resign when he was, much like Trump, the only way who could have made this shit work. Because think about what happened afterwards. Think about how much worse things got for the Tories after Boris. It's pretty funny that he got clapped for like the dumbest thing too. You want to know how stupid this is, that he got clapped for this and not for like a million other things that he did, like being one of the most racist British people alive for his entire career in quote unquote journalism. Like, he is just an awful dog person in general and always plays the role of a baboon in an effort to deflect away any sort of valid criticism. And he did it very well, right? He did it really well. He got clapped for this, partying during COVID. Like, that was like the big thing that happened that people were really upset about. There was some other stuff too, but like that was the most memorable one. And I think that is so funny because like that is such a non-issue in America that like Gavin Newsom did that. And absolutely nobody even brings that up. Like, only the most annoying conservatives bring that shit up.
Humiliation after boozy parties during COVID lockdown were revealed. Then came Liz Truss, who after one budget announcement saw her time in office cut so short that it was compared to the shelf life of an iceberg lettuce. Sir Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, looks set to win a landslide, but not because he's popular or has run a great campaign.
People are sick and tired of having the Conservatives in power.
And Labour isn't just campaigning on change, but also to end what they call the years of chaos at the hands of the Conservative government, stressing they'll be the party of economic responsibility, a message the Conservatives successfully ran on for generations. We'll find out later tonight just how well that message will work for Labour. Michelle.
Like right there, dude, right there. It's the most offensive thing you could possibly do, which is like not take advantage of the opportunity and the momentum. Tory failures for 14 years gives this broad popular mandate to whoever comes in power after to dramatically change the trajectory of the British economy. Having a light Thatcherite running the Labour Party in this moment so that all of that austerity will continue, like directly taking conservative bars and adopting them and saying like, no, we're going to be the responsible party economically, is so unimaginably stupid. I mean, it's not negligence, it's deliberate. It is by design for sure. Like you will never convince me that this shit is not deliberate. Wait, what is this? What did Elint News say? A lot of people voting Labour in the North voted Conservative in 2019. So if they go too far left, they're worried they would lose them. What are we talking about? That's British politics. It's unimaginably different than American politics. The reason why those people in the North, in the Labour strongholds, voted Conservative was not because the party was going too far left. The reason why they did that is because of Brexit. No, the UK is a little bit different than America in the way that its politics works. The UK working class, for the most part, understand their class position better than the American working class does. That's why all of their hicks are actually committed lifelong Labour voters until Boris Johnson in this like last couple of these last couple cycles. Historically, their actual poor working class are all Labour voters, whereas in the United States of America, obviously still the broad majority of American working class individuals vote for the Democratic Party, but there's definitely a significantly more mystification of class. I know I live in the heartland of the North, but a lot of working class North are voting Reform UK this time also. Yeah, that comes with regular volatility. That comes with economic instability. That comes with volatility. Working class people become more and more reactionary, and they're easy to light a fire under. All right, exit polls are coming in, ladies and gentlemen.
It looks as though they've been absolutely battered. And look at the numbers for Reform, potentially up to 13 seats. Wow. That's where some of the Conservative votes from last time will have gone. Beth Rigby, I was giving you a moment. Go.
Yeah, that is an incredible result. If you think that Starmer said he had to climb a mountain, he has scaled Everest there and taken off into orbit. Looking at that, that is implied majority. If this is correct, and it's only a prediction,
I hate it's the worst possible person that would be leading the Labour Party in this ginormous dub that was literally given to them on a silver platter. I hate the analysis. People are going to talk about how centrism works, how centrism wins. They're going to say that if this was Corbyn, he would have lost, and all this other like dumb nonsensical bullshit with no real basis to it. I'm so upset. I mean, I'm not upset that like the Tories are gone. That's a good thing, but I am so upset of what is to come for British politics. Isn't this good overall? Like if the Dems win? No. I'll say it like this. Joe Biden was openly more progressive than Keir Starmer, adjusted to like American politics. And Joe Biden's 4 years were openly more progressive than like what Keir Starmer's next, like what his tenure is going to look like. Also, the Nazis got 13. That is crazy.
Labour was at the last election their worst result since the Second World War. Now their best result possibly ever. And he and Rachel Reeves did a...
No, Labour is a leftist party. Historically, Labour, it's in its name. Keir Starmer, on the other hand, is not. Keir Starmer is a center-right figure that successfully, among others, openly destroyed Jeremy Corbyn, specifically so that they could overtake Labour and turn it into a center-right neoliberal party. There are still socialists within the Labour ranks, but a lot of them got purged.
And then the final point I make, and the second big story of the night, is Reform. They've entered the palace of Westminster. And if this is right, there will be Reform MPs, and there will be a huge conversation and argument inside the Conservative Party, which is if we can merge with Reform, then we can come back at Labour. Labour didn't get such a high share.
Bro, Reform is just straight Nazis, okay? Like, Reform is basically EDL, led by Nigel Farage, among other races, other prominent British racists. Nigel Farage basically ran a campaign of being like, we need to kill immigrants. Actually, as a matter of fact, one of the MPs literally said that. We should train the British youth on our shores and use the migrant boats that are coming into England as shooting practice. That is literally a verbatim quote. I'm not even paraphrasing. It is basically UKIP. There was a dude door knocking, saying slurs. They were using the P word, talking about Rishi Sunak. Channel 4 did an investigation that we watched. If you remember, this motherfucker was door dashing slurs. He would go up to everyone's doors and door knock and be like, "What's your favorite slur?" "Mine is the P word."
Of appeasing Farage rather than taking Farage on the core arguments that he makes, particularly around immigration. But a seismic win for Labour, and it looks as if Labour has also won its first election in a long time in Scotland. Look, yes, there are clearly big issues in a result of this scale for the SNP.
This is so bad.
The SNP's been in government for...
yeah, I'm telling you right now, dude, as some of the chatters are also saying this, but I'm telling you currently, watch this space. Keir Starmer does privatization, continues the austerity regime of the Tories, and then basically all the Labour strongholds go to reform. Reform comes in hot as a motherfucker, gets more legitimacy from the Tories. The Tories have no one else to rely on, so they try to bring the Reform Party on their side, set up a coalition, and then that only ends up legitimizing the Reform positions. Keir Starmer turns around and in a last ditch effort, he already signaled towards this. He signaled towards this in the debates, and he has signaled towards this centrist. What will end up happening is Keir Starmer will also capitulate to the right-wing framing on immigration, and he already has, just like Joe Biden did. Okay, that will only further solidify the reform position and only legitimize reform further. England, 1930s style, 1930s Germany style, England goes right-wing next time around.
Really, in this pincer movement, trying to unseat the Conservatives in this election.
What's so bad with a central-left leader? I don't know. Look at the American Democratic Party. Look at the French elections that are currently taking place. Center-left parties always capitulate to the most reactionary attitudes, and the Labour's not supposed to be a center-left party. What the are we talking about? It's got Labor in the name, dude. Labor. Do you know what that means? Like, it's very different than the Democratic Party. Labor.
And joining the Green Party, there's never been a moment where we've needed it.
Imagine being Turkish, trying to take the piss out of us, lol. At least we got a democracy. Bro, you think I'm like a defender of the Turkish electoral process? Like, what are you? That's so funny. My anger and resentment towards the Labor Party specifically is directed to Keir Starmer and the revitalization of the Tony Blair Labour, right-wing Labour. They're Norwegian. He's right. I am an Ameribu. I just think it's weird that he's like, at least we have a democracy, bro. It's like, okay, yeah, America does too, a theoretical one, and it sucks, you know? Like, you should be angry right next to me. My anger and resentment stems from, you know, a common perspective that I suspect many British people here also have. Yeah, sure, I make fun of like the UK and Oibrovs in general, but like ultimately my frustrations stem from the fact that Keir Starmer is going to take this and is going to take this new Labour, that's similar to Tony Blair Labour, and use it as a broad mandate for centrism. Do you understand? He's not going to do the good things that any other competent Labour leader who's like ideologically committed to like some kind of genuine reform, genuine progressive cause, like actually bringing about equity, would be able to do. Watch this space. In the upcoming days, everyone is going to talk about how much better Keir Starmer is than Jeremy Corbyn, and that centrism won in the UK, and it's the solution, it's the antidote to far-right politics of the Tories.
Should we just bring you briefly what we have heard from Keir Starmer in the last few moments? He's just been on X Twitter, you know what it is. He says, to everyone who has campaigned for Labour in this election, to everyone who voted for us and put their trust in our changed Labour Party, thank you. So no comment about the exit poll per se, but a moment of recognition that whatever they were doing has worked.
He'll talk about the country next. He's just thanking everybody because, as Alistair said...
No, what he's doing has demonstrably not worked. Like, No, it's just what the Tories have done that has worked in his favor. I hate this. Keir Starmer literally did not win this race at all. Keir Starmer had nothing to do with this. If anything, Labour won in spite of Keir Starmer. He did everything in his power to literally, ruin the gap that they already had. He played it safe, gave him no openings. Are you kidding me? Dude, when the railroad strikes were happening, he told his MPs not to go. He like, it's insane. He wanted any opportunity to avoid any opportunity for the Tories to smear him. Smear him with what? Being pro-Labor? What the do you mean? It's in the name of the party, chatter. What are you talking about? Yeah, you're right. Tories didn't smear him. The only reason why Tories didn't smear him is not because of his political prowess and playing it safe. It's because they were too busy. They were too busy up the country. The overwhelming, unimaginable amount. There you go. Thank you, chatter. Here is proof in the pudding. We asked Labour voters to tell us in their own words the main reason why they're back in the party. For the largest number by far, the key motivation is ousting the Conservatives. 48% of Labour voters said they're voting to get the Tories out. 13% said it the same thing, but in a different way, which is the country needs a change. 14 years of Tory austerity. I agree with their policies, got 5%. 4% said to support the NHS and reduce waiting times. They are the best alternative with a chance of winning. 4%. I like my local MP. 2%. For a fairer society. 2%. I've always voted Labour. 2%. He started campaigning on May 28th. That's when people started seeing him on TV. Look at Labour popularity. The classic Joe Brandon move. Look, all of this is directly a consequence of the Conservatives absolutely dropping the ball. Meanwhile, you look at the lack of popularity for the Conservatives, and what is he doing? Adopting the Conservative policies. Yeah, everyone knew Labour was going to get a huge landslide, but no, Starmer still has to moderate instead of moving further left with near zero electoral risk. You go, polls prove this. There's no excitement for the charisma black hole that is Starmer. It's just about getting Rishi out. Yes. 1% said Keir Starmer's leadership. Labour voting intention now lower than in 2017. So they're folding the Conservative policies when there's zero pressure there, the same way Dems folded with environmental, women's rights, etc. policy despite having unprecedented power, aka they're destroying the illusion of two-party democracy themselves. Yes.
Because the